Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another live chat with James here at ProPix TV in Vancouver, British Columbia. We have lots of different headlines from the local Surrey and Metro Vancouver area through to across Canada and, of course, around the globe. We will cover lots tonight, but at the end of that, we'll talk a bit about being involved in the entertainment industry and my history there, as well as what other programs you can catch me on, whether or not you are looking online to the YouTube channels and different news outlets or other program networks. Then you can also look at other channels such as Apple TV, Netflix, and others. So again, we'll talk a bit about being involved in the entertainment industry and where it's at. Now, of course, if you wanted to find out more, you can check out my other program that is on Jess TV. That's JESSTV.ca. And you can watch Primetime Live, where we've been doing an in-depth look at the film and television industry throughout North America over the last several weeks. And of course, on Thursday night, we will be back live at 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And then we will be looking at the third part in the series on the film and television production industry. So again, check that out. Without further ado, though, let's move on. Yes, it is, of course, Wednesday, August the 20th, 2025. Right now, at local time, it is 12:37 a.m. So again, for those early risers, welcome to the show wherever you're logging in from. And don't forget that we love to know where it is you're watching from. So add in the chat there. Let us know what city or country you're logging in from to watch the show. Also, be advised that you are more than welcome to interrupt the conversation through the chat feature and let us know if there's something that you want to discuss. It doesn't matter if it's about the headlines or anything else. We are always open to chat. That's why it's called Live Chat with James, because we love to have conversations with our audience. And if you want to call in, you can call 778-980-4635 to call in and talk live on the air. That is also open to you. Once again, we are moving along. Yes, it's live chat once again. I'm James Kuzno in the studios in Vancouver, British Columbia. Tonight we begin in Surrey. It is a city at a crossroads. We'll investigate a disturbing pattern of targeted attacks and extortion threats, creating a climate of fear and how citizens and police are fighting back. Then we'll go national. The travel nightmare is almost over as Air Canada and the flight attendants reach a deal. We'll tell you what it means for you and when you can expect to fly normally. And in a crisis of conduct, the Canadian military, yes, more soldiers are suspended for hateful acts, raising disturbing questions about extremism in the ranks. And finally, a worldview. We'll take a look at, of course, the high-stakes push for peace in Ukraine, led by the White House. We'll look at the fragile diplomacy and the deep divisions that could derail it. And on a World Humanitarian Day, a shocking new report reveals a war on aid workers, with 2025 on track to be the deadliest year on record for such. We have to cover a lot, so let's get started. And don't forget, the chat room is open, so by all means, throw your comments in there or say hello. We begin tonight, of course, in Surrey, British Columbia, where a city is grappling with a series of violent and intimidating crimes that suggest a coordinated and escalated campaign of fear. The incidents are not random, but rather targeted attacks on the leadership and economic backbone of the city's prominent South Asian community. This is something that we've talked about quite a bit here, and we will continue to raise awareness about this issue because it is very important to our community. It's a pattern of fear and intimidation, with the most recent example of this disturbing trend involving Satbir Singh Chima, the president and CEO of the Progressive Intercultural Community Service Society, also known as PICS. Last week, on the evening of Monday, August the 11th, Mr. Chima was attacked outside of his office. A white Dodge pickup truck approached him in a parking lot along 80th Avenue. After a brief exchange, a masked man jumped from the back seat and moved aggressively towards him. Mr. Chima tried to retreat, but he was sprayed with bear spray. What elevates this from a simple assault to something more sinister are the details. Mr. Chima told Omni News that he saw the driver of the truck filming the entire incident. The tactic, documenting an assault, is often not just used to injure but to terrorize, to create a record of dominance and to send a chilling message. Luckily, Mr. Chima was able to duck and turn, avoiding the direct bear spray in his face. Now, the chemical did land on his shirt, turban, and arms. He believes the attack was premeditated and directly linked to his organization's work. PICS is a nonprofit that provides essential employment, settlement, and housing services to new immigrants, seniors, and other vulnerable groups. In his own words, the attack had to be the handiwork of some people who had an issue with our organization. Now, this attack on a respected community leader does not stand in isolation. It appears to be a part of a wider pattern of extortion and violence. Late last night, or 2 nights ago now, Surrey police on patrol discovered bullet holes in the front of a car wash business in the area of 128th and 84th Avenue. The business was closed and no one was inside. But the owner reports that just 2 days earlier on Saturday, he received a phone call from an anonymous unknown number demanding $50,000. The intimidation escalated from there. In the early hours of Sunday morning, two men showed up at the owner's private home. As he has since shared video of that encounter with police, it is being investigated, and of course, we as a community take this very seriously. Now, the connection between these events is being drawn by the Surrey Police Service itself. The force recently reported that complaints of extortion threats targeting the South Asian community have nearly doubled in the last month alone. When viewed together, the attack, Mr. Chima, and the shooting at the car wash are not separate crimes. They are evidence of a systemic criminal pressure campaign, the choice of targets. A nonprofit leader and a local business owner appears to be strategic, designed to maximize fear and signal that no one, from civil society leaders to entrepreneurs, is safe. Now, the campaign is a direct assault on the social and economic fabric of a key demographic in Surrey. This creates a crisis of confidence in public safety and has deep ripple effects on the community's trust and daily life. This is something that we have been exploring. As I said, it is a problem across Canada, whether it's the Bishnoi gang or others that are creating this culture of fear in major cities, including Brampton and Toronto, Vancouver, Mississauga, Surrey, Edmonton, and others. So again, a very important topic that we need to discuss. Now, as this climate of fear grows, a counter narrative of proactive engagement is also taking shape from both law enforcement and the community itself. The Surrey Police Service has been deploying innovative tactics to get ahead of crime. In recent month-long undercover operation, female officers posed as joggers in areas identified as harassment hotspots. The goal was to catch individuals engaged in catcalling, harassment, and other predatory behaviors that often go unreported but can be precursors to more serious violence. The sting was a success, leading to 18 arrests for offenses that included not just harassment, but also sexual assault and theft. So again, the Surrey police are looking at not just the extortion and harassment of our Sikh community and our South Asian community, but also for others within the community when it comes to crimes such as the harassment, sexual assaults and violence, and other issues that need to be dealt with within our community. So a huge kudos out to the Surrey Police Service. We know that it's a challenging time for the Surrey Police Service and the Surrey RCMP as they struggle to try and get the transfer of power done, but it is dragging out longer than anticipated. But regardless, again, it is, up to the Surrey Police Service to deal with these issues, and they seem to be taking it very seriously. Inspector John Vale of the Surrey Police Service explained the rationale, stating that even actions that don't always meet a criminal threshold, like staring, shouting, or slowing a vehicle, have a huge impact on people's daily lives. The operation was about early intervention, managing risk, and sending a message that such behavior will not be tolerated. My question is, at what point do you intervene resulting from staring? I think that there is a line to be drawn, but also I think that it's also important for our community to feel safe. So again, it's a delicate balance. Now, while tackle street level crime, some residents are demanding a more fundamental change. A decades old debate about amalgamating a small city of White Rock with its much larger neighbor, Surrey, has resurfaced with a new energy. Yes, a petition started by several White Rock businesses and residents is gaining traction. The stated motivation is a list of concerns with the city's current leadership and policies. This push for structural change in government suggests a deep public dissatisfaction that is likely fueled by the very safety concerns plaguing the region. It points to a belief among some that the current municipal structure is inadequate to handle the challenges of a rapidly growing urban area. The sentiment for amalgamation is not just theoretical, it was already happening in the business world. The Surrey Board of Trade and the South Surrey and White Rock Chambers of Commerce have voted to merge. The new unified entity to be officially launched this fall as the Surrey White Rock Board of Trade aims to create a more powerful and unified voice for advocacy and to serve better the needs of businesses across the entire region. Now, taken together, these responses reveal a fascinating tension. On one hand, you have an officially functioning actions like police sting operation. On the other, you have a citizen-driven demand for a complete overhaul to the government structure itself. It suggests that for some, the problem isn't just about specific crimes, but a deeper crisis of faith in the leadership's ability to manage the city. The amalgamation debate is a powerful symptom of Surrey's growing pains and a sign that as the city expands, its fragmented governance structures are being called into question. But again, this is both to do with Surrey and White Rock. They are different cities, seen as the same by many, but also very different in others. So again, whether that amalgamation movement will take effect, we'll watch and see. Now, as opposed to building the future, it's a city in transformation. Even as Surrey confronts these serious social and safety changes, it is simultaneously undergoing one of the most ambitious physical transformations in the country. Municipal and provincial governments are pouring billions of dollars into the city, a tangible and deliberate strategy to shape the narrative of Surrey's explosive growth. Just this year, the city of Surrey announced over $500 million in a major capital project for community facilities. This includes a massive 190,000 square foot Newton Community Center at a cost of $310.6 million. This will feature an Olympic-sized swimming pool and a modern library, 3 times the size of the current one. Another $132.8 million is being spent on the Cloverdale Sport and Ice Complex, as well as $65.5 million will go towards a major expansion at the Chuck Bailey Recreation Center. In announcing these projects, Mayor Brenda Locke framed them as a direct investment in the city's future, stating these initiatives are not just infrastructure improvements, they are a testament to our vision of a vibrant, inclusive, and family-friendly Surrey where everyone has access equally to recreation, culture, and community spaces. With that said, before we continue, I would just like to give a shout out to our episode sponsor. Yes, again, it is Carry Movers Limited of Metro Vancouver and the Fraser Valley. Metro Vancouver and the Fraser Valley has been served by Carry Movers for decades, a local family-owned and operated moving company. They specialize not only in residential moves, but can also help with industrial, office moves, corporate moves, and any specialty items you need relocated throughout the Metro Vancouver and Fraser Valley region. In addition, they provide long distance services throughout Western Canada. You can find Carry Movers online at www.carrymovers.com. That's Kary movers.com. Check them out and get a free quote online. Now, back to the story. This municipal spending is dwarfed by an even larger wave of provincial investments outlined in the BC budget for 2025. A staggering $2.9 billion is committed to building a new Surrey hospital and an integrated BC Cancer Centre. Another $6 billion is allocated for the 16-kilometer Surrey-Langley SkyTrain extension, a project that will reshape transit in the entire Fraser Valley. And of course, Simon Fraser University is receiving $34 million to establish its new medical school in Surrey, cementing the city's status as a hub for healthcare and education. To accommodate the city's booming population of young families, School District 36 is in the midst of construction spree, with major projects for new schools or additions at Fleetwood Park Secondary, Forsyth Road Elementary, Snoqualmie Elementary, and Tattaloo Elementary, among others. There is also a new private school being opened in South Surrey, Christian school that will be on 24th Avenue by 184th. I believe it was St. John Paul II or Pope John Paul II. Regardless, anyway, the new school will have an update on that as it's happening just across from our studios, actually. So we are excited to welcome them to the community. We'll have more information on that on future episodes, but they are open for enrollment now. If you are looking for enrollment spaces in the Catholic school that is opening in South Surrey. Now, when you tally these investments, nearly $10 billion in publicly announced major projects is a clear picture, and that's emerging. Yes, this is the official counter-argument of the narrative for a city losing control. It's a massive concrete and steel declaration that the problems of crime and social friction are temporary growing pains, but the multi-billion-dollar future is permanent, and that is also very bright. This creates the central paradox of Surrey today, a city where the daily experiences of fear and intimidation exist side by side with the tangible construction of the future metropolis. It is a city in a state of profound and complex transition. Let us know what you think about the developments in Surrey. Let us know what you think about developments in your local community, no matter where you are. We love to hear about it. And of course, we now move on to the national stage where stories of economic relief, institutional crisis, and widespread uncertainty are dominating the headlines. Now, it is the end of a travel nightmare for many. Yes, some good news for hundreds of thousands of Canadians. The travel nightmare that grounded flights and stranded passengers across the country is over. Air Canada and the union representing its 10,000 flight attendants reached a tentative agreement early this morning, ending a strike that began over the weekend at the peak of the summer travel season. The breakthrough came after talks resumed late Monday with the help of a federal mediator. The core issue driving the dispute was the long-standing practice of not paying flight attendants for work performed while a plane is on the ground. Time spent boarding, safety checks, and deplaning. The union was declaring a major victory on this front. In a statement proclaimed, "Unpaid work is over. We have reclaimed our voice and our power." This concession is significant and could set a new precedent for labor standards across the entire airline industry, even outside of Canada. However, getting back to normal will be a slow and complex process. Air Canada said it would begin gradually restarting operations at 4 p.m. Eastern Time yesterday. But CEO Mike Rosen warned that a full restoration of the airline's 700 flights a day schedule could take up to 7 to 10 days. An estimated 500,000 customers were affected by the strike, and many still face long waits and a significant backlog of cancellations. We've been covering this story for several days, of course, since the strike started, and we've heard from several of our viewers sharing stories about the inconvenience, the high cost that they suffered as a result of the labor dispute, and of course, their ongoing distrust of Air Canada as a result. We will watch and see how Air Canada responds to these complaints and tries to make it right with the customers, as I feel that there's a lot of ground for them to make up, even though the strike was quite short in comparison to many. Now, the resolution is also notable for what it says about the power of organized labor. The agreement was reached after the union successfully defied two separate return to work orders from the Canada Industrial Relations Board, which the federal government had directed to intervene. The government's attempts to force an end to the strike through binding arbitration failed, and a negotiated settlement was ultimately required. Prime Minister Mark Carney issued a statement today, or now yesterday, because we're after midnight, but he issued that statement expressing his relief that a deal had been reached. This outcome represents a significant victory for the union, demonstrating that targeted industrial action in a critical sector can achieve major concessions even when faced with direct government pressure. It's a powerful message delivered at a time of broader economic anxiety and a softening national labor market. Let's take a look now at a crisis of conduct in the Canadian military. While the airline dispute has been resolved, a much deeper crisis continues to unfold within one of Canada's most important national institutions. Yes, the Canadian military, the armed forces. The Canadian Army has suspended 5 active members after a video surfaced showing them participating in hateful conduct. The video, which was actually filmed in 2023 but was only recently brought to the military's attention by a member of the public, is deeply disturbing. According to the Army's commander, Lieutenant General Mike Wright, the footage shows one individual performing a military drill in front of a flag of the prestigious Royal 22E Regiment, the Vendus, before consuming an unknown substance. At another point in the video, another individual performs the Nazi salute. So again, very big concerns. The 5 suspended soldiers are all members of the 5 Canadian Mechanized Brigade Group, based at CFB Valcartier in Quebec City. In a statement, General Wright said he was deeply disturbed and profoundly disappointed by the video, calling the behavior completely unacceptable and warning that it could lead to dismissal from the forces. The matter has been referred to the military police for a disciplinary investigation. This incident, however, cannot be viewed in isolation. It is the latest in a pattern of alleged extremism emerging from the very same military base. Just last month, the RCMP laid terrorism charges against 4 other individuals with military ties, also from the Quebec City area. 2 of them are active members of the Canadian Armed Forces, also based out of CFB Valcartier. They are accused of being a part of a case of ideologically motivated violent extremism, with an alleged plot to create an anti-government militia and forcibly to seize land. The repeated emergence of extremism, from hateful conduct to alleged terrorism plots emanating from the same geographic and institutional nexus, is alarming. It suggests the problem may not be one of a few bad apples, but rather a localized and potentially systemic failure in screening, oversight, and culture within a specific part of the Canadian military. This pattern erodes public trust and raises critical questions for military leadership. Are recruitment processes failing? Is a subculture of extremism being tolerated at major Canadian military bases? The story no longer is just about punishing individuals. It's about the institutional health and integrity of the Canadian Armed Forces. Now let's take a look at Canada's economic outlook in the age of uncertainty. The challenges facing our national institutions are unfolding against a backdrop of significant economic anxiety. A consensus is forming among Canadian major financial institutions that the country is stuck in a period of low growth and high uncertainty, with direct consequences for jobs and, of course, the cost of living. Multiple forecasts point to a sluggish picture for 2025. Vanguard is projecting just a 1.25% GDP growth for the year, while RBC Economics has revised its forecast down to 1.2%. On the other hand, TD Economics agrees, noting that growth is expected to run below trend through 2025 and into 2026. The Bank of Canada, in its own projection, sees growth rising at around 1.8% in 2025, but this is still a modest figure. The slowdown is not just an abstract number. It has a real human cost. Canadian unemployment rate has already climbed to 7%, and some analysts, like those at Vanguard, expected to reach 7.5% by the end of the year. Job losses have been concentrated in trade-reliant sectors shaken by policy shifts south of the border. Now, the primary driver of this economic malaise is persistent uncertainty surrounding Canada's trade relationship with the United States. This volatility is having a chilling effect on the Canadian economy, causing businesses to hold back on hiring, spending, and making new investments. While the Bank of Canada has cut its policy interest rate to help stimulate the economy and may have room to cut further these domestic policy. And of course, these tools are proving inefficient to overcome the hesitancy gripping the business community. Now, if you head over to our Substack and follow the headlines today, you will see that we have posted a small graph as well, looking at those numbers. But what is in the data reveals an economy caught in a structural dependence trap. The health of our domestic economy is being held hostage by the political and trade volatility of our large partner. Now, the Bank of Canada can make it cheaper to borrow money, but it cannot manufacture the confidence businesses need to invest when they fear their access to the U.S. market could be disrupted at any moment. The situation highlights a fundamental vulnerability in Canada's economic structure, one that policymakers have long warned about, but is now causing tangible economic pain. It also demonstrates that asshole south of the border, yes, I'm talking about Donald Trump, needs to understand that regardless as to his up and on again, off again, down, just the all over the map trade tariffs are not going to subject Canada into submission. He is looking to try to push Canada into an economic downfall and dependence on America even further. He wants to see Canada pushed into a point of submission where he can annex the country and make it the 51st state, which will never, ever happen within the realm of possibilities. Canadians will not stand by and let that happen, and nor will our government, so Donald Trump can just piss off and stick it up his ass. But let's move on to the rest of the worldview. Yes, finally, we broaden our lens to the global stage where a high stakes diplomatic push for peace is underway. And again, it of course involves that orange baboon from Washington. Yes, the high stakes diplomatic push for peace is underway, even as a devastating and largely hidden war is being waged against the world's humanitarians. The White House is actively trying to broker a peace summit between Russia and Ukraine, and the White House press secretary confirmed today that Russian President Vladimir Putin has told U.S. President Donald Trump that he will soon meet with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky for direct talks. However, the path to peace is fraught with immense challenges and deep divisions that threaten to derail the process before it even begins. One possible location being flouted for the summit is Hungary, a choice that itself is a significant and controversial diplomatic signal, as Hungary's leader, Viktor Orban, is a longtime ally of President Putin and a vocal critic of the Western coalition that has been backing Ukraine. Let's also remember that earlier yesterday, Donald Trump went on one of his press conferences and pressers where he really didn't make a lot of sense. He is pushing, apparently, in his words, for the peace agreement because he's negotiated six others, which is bullshit. And he's also stating that he is working really hard to get into heaven. And this is really important to him because it will have an impact on his ability to enter heaven. Again, we only wish that comes too soon. But in any event, he is making these crazy statements at the same time saying that he thinks he's low on the totem pole to get access or entrance into heaven, which I think probably has a lot to do with what he knows about his own role in the Epstein scandal, as well as many other just despicable things that that piece of shit has done over the years. Again, it's Donald Trump even letting out himself that he doesn't think he'll make it to heaven because he is a piece of crap with no actual, absolutely no positives that we can pull up. Now, Chancellor Friedrich Merz forcefully rejected the idea of it being in Hungary. Yes, that is representing Germany, saying the demand was equivalent to asking the U.S. to give up Florida when it comes to the Russia demanding that Ukraine cede its eastern Donbass region. That is and should be a very, very big sticking point and should never even be in question. A country that goes and launches an illegal war, committing atrocities and war crimes against innocent civilians and children, is despicable. Not to mention the attack on residential communities, on aid workers, and so much more. There should absolutely be no ceding of any Ukrainian territory to Russia and to Vladimir Putin after such an illegal attack. Number one, it is against the Constitution of Ukraine, but it is also against international law and international norms. So they should not be rewarded for all of the war crimes and atrocities they've committed from this illegal war. Now, it highlights a potential fracture within the Western alliance. While the U.S. administration appears focused on securing a deal, key European allies are publicly resisting any peace that would force Ukraine to surrender its sovereign territory. Again, it's all about Donald Trump. He wants to get into heaven, apparently, now. He doesn't want just a peace prize. And he is willing to throw Ukraine under the bus to get what he wants. Now, this diplomatic effort is more than just negotiation between Russia and Ukraine. It's a test of the cohesion of the Western alliance itself. The American push for a transactional peace deal is just ridiculous that it potentially comes at the expense of principles that have united the Allies since the invasion began. Risks creating a long-term strategic rift between Washington and key European capitals. It is wrong. Now, let's take a look at the war on aid workers. Yes, the humanity that's under fire. As diplomatic talks of peace, a brutal war is escalating against those who provide aid in the world's most dangerous places. Yesterday, August the 19th, was World Humanitarian Day, and a shocking new report from the aid organization CARE reveals a global crisis, the deliberate targeting of humanitarian workers, and a complete collapse of accountability. The report's headline, a statistic is staggering. 2025 is on track to be the deadliest year on record for aid workers. As of last week, 265 humanitarians have been killed in deliberate attacks this year. That's nearly a 50% increase over the same period in 2024. The report identifies the epicenters of this violence. The dramatic increase has been largely driven, it says, by the Israeli military's attacks on aid workers in Gaza, where over 180 have been killed this year alone. Palestinian aid workers there face a daily fight for survival, struggling to find food and water while facing the threat of sniper fire. The other major hotspot is Sudan, where 60 aid workers have been killed so far in 2025 and over 100 since the conflict began last year. But if you talk to Donald Trump, everything's just fucking peachy in Sudan, of course. Now, the vast majority of victims, 97%, are not international staff, but local people working to help their own communities. But the most damning finding of the report is despite these escalating crimes, accountability is almost non existent. Perpetrators are not being held responsible, and a lack of political will means these attackers are not properly, or sorry, the attacks themselves are not properly investigated or prosecuted. And it should be noted that the RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, along with other Interpol officers, are in the Israel and Gaza region investigating war crimes and documenting them from both sides. And again, that is to help with accountability after. But in the meantime, what's being done to protect the humanitarians and others is too little too late. Now, this trend signals more than a tragic byproduct of worsening conflicts. It represents a fundamental breakdown in the international consensus that humanitarians are neutral and must be protected. This erosion of international law is being exploited by actors who now view aid organizations as legitimate targets. This threatens the entire global humanitarian system. Aid workers cannot operate safely. They cannot deliver life saving food, water, and medicine. These attacks are therefore not just attacks on individuals, they are attacks and an assault on the very concept of humanitarian aid within itself. Now, let's move along to global economic headwinds. Yes, and finally, the geopolitical turmoil continues to fuel global economic uncertainty. Both the IMF, or International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank are forecasting sluggish global growth for 2025 in the range of 2.3 to 3%. Again, looking at Canada, much lower than those numbers. The outlook is weighed down by what the World Bank calls a sharp rise in trade barriers and heightened policy uncertainty. The threat of reciprocal tariffs and unpredictable changes to global supply chains is causing private investment to stall worldwide. This global picture directly mirrors the challenges facing Canada, reinforcing the reality that our interconnected world, political instability, and trade conflicts have a direct and damaging impact on the economic well being of all. So that is our main program, focusing on the headlines tonight from the streets of Surrey, where a community is grappling with fear while building a bold new future, to the skies over Canada, where Labour victory marks the end of a travel crisis, even as the economy remains fragile. To the world stage, where fragile hope for peace in Ukraine is shadowed by a brutal and growing war on those who provide aid. I'm James Kuzno. Thank you for joining us for this part of Live Chat with James on ProPix TV, coming to you from the studios in Vancouver, British Columbia. Don't forget to check out our program sponsor. Yes, it's Carry Movers Limited. You can find them online for a free moving quote or rates at www.karymovers.com. Yes, the Western Canadian moving service that provides long distance moves throughout Western Canada and local moves, whether it's your home, your business, or a specialty item in the Metro Vancouver and Fraser Valley region. Get your free quote and information at www.karymovers.com. That's KARYmovers.com. Thank you for their support of this program. And as we move on, ladies and gentlemen, it is just an open chat time. If you want to chat, by all means, feel free. Of course, we get cheap viewers, remove the space, yada, yada. I don't know if you see that on your screen, but again, we get spam filling up our chat room, and that is just annoying. But let's take a look at something else, ladies and gentlemen. We can talk about the entertainment industry, whether it is in Canada, the US, or around the globe. There is much to be seen, much to be done when it comes to expanding the local production markets. Now, we look at a lot of the film offices, such as Film BC or LA Film and Ontario Creates. among many, many others. And we've actually talked to representatives of the Mountain View Film Office in Alberta when we did a special on Jess TV. Yes, we do a show weekly on Jess FM and Jess TV out of Lethbridge, Alberta. Check it out at JESS tv.ca and watch those episodes. They are streaming for those who missed the live chats. Once again, though, we talk about the world of entertainment. Now, many of you are aware that, yes, I am an actor in Metro Vancouver as well for many, many shows. Heart Attack Patient on Hallmark. Yes, it was called Heart of the Matter. You can check it out online or on your television streaming devices. You can also see where I played an uncredited role as Ezra in the Batwoman series. I believe it was season 2 where I got killed. Yes, you gotta watch it and see how I died. But yes, I do participate in the film industry, whether it's in background roles or small day parts, day calls. I am out there. And of course, I started out doing stand up comedy many decades ago. As much as I hate to admit I'm getting older, I am. And stand up comedy is a great venue to not only get out and enjoy entertaining people, but it's a great way to practice your public speaking skills and get a direct and live feedback from the audience. I can tell you many stories about bombing on stage or other ones where it was just amazing. And as a comedian or an actor, you've got to be able to face that in reality. You're going to get turned down if you get into acting, whether it is for commercials or for primetime television. It doesn't matter. It's a long journey, it's a tough journey, but it is a fun journey. At least I find it is anyway. Let's also remember though, you got to have a thick skin. You've got to understand that there's going to be just boatloads of rejection. You know, you're not going to get the yeses that you think that you so deserve, because you know what? So do others. And ultimately, it's up to the casting directors, the producers, and so many other people that they have a vision for the role, and it may not align with what you've envisioned before you go in for that the all important call. Now, as you go in to these auditions, you have built up a character in your mind. And again, it may not align with the way they want the character delivered on screen. So you can't take it personally. It's all about the creative world, about the creative elements. And that's what makes TV and motion pictures and art in general just so intriguing, is the fact that everybody can interpret the same thing in a different way. Nothing wrong with that. It may be disappointing when you don't get a callback for the audition, or you've had several callbacks and you don't get called back again for the final role, the final part of it. But at the same time, again, don't be despaired, because of the fact that the way you've interpreted it is just how you've done it. You may interpret a different role down the road that really resonates with the casting director or producer or a director in general. And that may be the difference between you getting a role and someone else not. So, again, just remember that there are checks and balances, but to take different courses and workshops, of course, it's important in any field, any type of work that you do, that you're always learning, you're always practicing, you're always engaging, you're always looking to be better at it. And that is no different in acting. It's no different in comedy. It's no different when you're on stage singing. Sometimes it can be a lot more difficult at times being a comedian, because you cannot go up for 20 years playing the same music. You know, people don't want to hear the same jokes over and over for 20 years. You've got to be able to be creating at all times. And of course, I'm not taking that away from musicians. They're always writing new songs, they're always creating new projects. And that is very difficult as well. And I don't underestimate or understate the work that they do. But the arts overall is a commitment, and it is a job if you're going to be doing it for a career and looking long term. Other ways that I suggest people, to whether they want to get into directing, acting, lighting, just anywhere, special effects, stunts, all of those different things, I always recommend that they try getting involved with background work, or also known as extras work. You get the opportunity to observe some amazing directors, producers, and other artists, cast and crew, to understand what it is that they are doing on set to create that final product that you're going to watch on your streaming service. It gives you a whole world of knowledge if you're paying attention to it, and you get paid for it. A bonus in my world, not to mention the craft services for fat guys like me. That's always a bonus as well. So, again, if you're looking to get into entertainment, I strongly suggest it. If you are at the other end of the world and you want to get into live performancing, and I don't mean that literally at the other end of the world, but if you're looking at getting into live performances, get out there, volunteer at a community theater. Volunteer for local events where there are concerts and music venues, because you can get involved at that level and actually learn a lot. The Not only the experience, but also the connections that you can make with others in the industry to help move your career along when you decide which route you want to go. So, again, if you're looking to get into the entertainment industry, it's strongly suggested that you get involved at the base level so you can also identify that maybe what you thought that role entailed, or that job, is not what you envisioned. And you decide, well, maybe I want to change directions. And again, this is a real easy way there where you have not made that expensive commitment, whether it's in university or the Vancouver Film School or others. You've got an idea as to what you're looking at. And again, it's not going to tell you everything, because the industry and each project continually evolve and have different highlights and ups and downs, or ebb and flows. But again, it gives you an idea of what you're looking at, and it's a great way to get experience. Again, also to build your contact list of people in the industry. Now, as we look at it, again, if you're looking at stand-up comedy, go hang out at the pro-am nights. It's great to go to the regular comedy shows and, enjoy the laughter of the Bill Burrs or the other amazing talented comedians out there. But where you can learn a lot is going to the pro-am nights, and that is where the new comedians, or the up and coming, and the amateurs are really honing their craft, learning about the actual building of a joke. And it's not just getting up there and throwing a joke out there at the audience. You actually, as you're writing, you're building a certain level of performance within that. So again, your timing, your interactivity with the audience, you're trying to be personable, but at the same time, you're trying to be professional on the delivery of your entertainment as well. Because let's face it, the idea is that you want to create something that people are going to pay to come and see, whether that's in music, whether that's in comedy, whether it's live performance, whether it's TV or blockbuster motion pictures. Again, you've got to create something that's intriguing, that draws people in and makes them want to pay to enjoy the works that you've created. So I hope that gives you kind of a quick overview. We will have more conversations about entertainment, about I'll even share some of my personal stories, some laughs, and some real cool things in future episodes. But again, make sure that if you are watching this in the repeat broadcast on any of the streaming platforms, leave your comments in the comment section. I do pay attention to them. I read them and I try to get back to you. So again, once again, just make sure that you let me know where you're watching from, because that's really important too. Not super important to the content of the show, but again, the context. But also it can make a difference as to if we adjust the time schedule of the program, we can see where most people are watching from and try to make it a better timing for you in your area if it works for the majority. But once again, you can always watch the replays as well. If you have any other comments that you don't want to share in the comment section, you can always email direct to smile, SMILE, at propixcanada.com. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care and stay safe, everyone.